Yeah.
So, but we're a quorum. So I think we should begin since we have a lot to talk about. Thank you. We need to go through the formal process of introducing. I see, well, let's start with you. Mary, introduce yourself, please.
Mary Bajere, Hawaii Island.
Mahina.
Mahina Tudor, Oahu.
Robin K. Lanai. We have a quorum. Introductions are complete. Les Segundo from ERP is with us as well. Thank you, Les, for setting this.
Oh, I have to report that no one is with me at this time.
Right. And I think I can say the same. Sorry. Mary, are your admirers hiding behind you that we can't see?
I have no admirers. My dog's laying on the floor.
Okay. You have plenty of admirers.
There's somebody here at my house painting, but they're far away and they can't hear what we're doing.
Okay. All right. What I thought we'd try and do today was go through this list and determine which, if any, and we don't have to include any, but if there are any in here that we would want the council to review with the question to them of whether they wanted to submit testimony. That does not mean they would have to submit testimony in favor or in opposition. As you all, of course, know, you could simply submit comments. So the council could have 4 options: do nothing, submit comments, submit opposition, submit support. So I thought we would go through these. And what I was going to suggest in the interest of time is that we do the ones that I added the green bullets to, because I think those were the most relevant. They're the ones that are listed on the agenda. And we can walk through those. And then if there are others that you'd like to add, we'll certainly go back and add those in. There are 3 that are not on this list that you got that I added later, and I'll walk you through that. And I'll also update you on the testimony that's been submitted to date. Onauna has testified twice on 2 different bills, and I've written testimony, but it was submitted by OPSD rather than it coming from me. But I'll explain that as we get through that. So does that process for today work? Mahina says yes. Mary, you okay with doing it that way?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So let's jump right in. And then the first one would be HB 1473. And the purpose of this act, requires an environmental impact statement to consider whether the proposed action will exacerbate socioeconomic disparities. There's a couple of versions of this bill. To date, it has not moved. It's been referred to EEP, JHA, and Finance, but it hasn't moved at all. Any comments on that one from you folks? Of course, you both know that we won't know if any testimony was submitted until there's a hearing scheduled. And since no hearing's been scheduled, we have no idea if anybody's submitted testimony.
Yeah, I think there's too much going on. I think it's safe to say that nobody's submitted testimony because they're all doing it at the last minute. So.
Mahina, did you want to comment on that bill?
Yeah, just really quickly, I don't know if Onauna shared, but her and I had a meeting with a couple of the folks from OHA who were introducing, who drafted the bill. So maybe that was a week or 2 ago, but we just really quickly shared our concerns about the bill as it's written. And that was kind of it. We shared the council or OEQC's environmental justice report. Oh gosh, from 2008. I think that would hopefully address some of their concerns. But that was it. Just wanted to share that really quickly.
Thank you. I remember hearing a little bit about that. Onauna mentioned that in a conversation with Rep. Lowen, that she had been approached by OHA. Is this one that you think we should bring up to the council? Anybody in favor of that? No, okay. Let's go to the next one, HB. By the way, if I move too fast today, please stop me. I'm just trying to be sensitive to keeping you here past 6 o'clock tonight. Let's look at the next one. HB 1750 makes the new construction of affordable
What about
housing.
1655?
I was just going to go through the ones that have the green dots with them.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry, green dots. Okay.
And the green dots were that's no, if you wanted to do that one, that's fine.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
The green dots were really just my sense that these were more relevant to the EAC than others. You're certainly welcome to disagree with that.
It's fine. I missed the green dot conversation. Okay.
Okay. Did what I sent you come over with the green dots?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And Mahina, do you have the list a list in front of you, or you just look? You're okay. Okay. Hi, Jody. Okay. On 1655, though, since you mentioned it, let me just update you that it passed with amendments at both committees, Water and Land and JHA. Okay, the next one then would be 1750. And this one was really interesting. We had a good conversation with Rep. Lowen about this. It generated lots and lots of testimony. If you get a moment, if you already haven't, you should look at some of it. It's pretty interesting. It makes the new construction of affordable housing eligible for exemption from an EIS and EA requirements if it meets certain requirements. It was very productive testimony, if you will. We had some back and forth with Rep. Lowen, and Onauna wrote a brilliant distinction between what we have in our rules and what this bill would do. The end result is that bill has been deferred. So there was some testimony submitted, and it's worth your reading it if you haven't already. Now, Mary, my legislative question to you is, once this bill has been deferred by the committees, does that mean it's dead, or it can? No. So is this a bill that we think the council should consider and talk about?
Well, if Onauna testified on it or drew some kind of an analysis, probably.
Okay, she testified. She made it very clear that she was testifying. She said she was not testifying in her position as the chair. She testified as an individual, and because the council is not considered testifying. So, but okay, right. So 1750 is one that we should bring up. Okay. Good, thank you. Jody, just to back you up quickly, we're just going through the list of bills that are in the agenda. And the question before us is, do we want to bring these to the EAC for their consideration to either do nothing, submit testimony, comments, pro or con? That's where we are.
Thanks.
Okay,
Thanks,
so 1750 we will bring up. The next one is 1803. This one also had lots of testimony. It was very interesting. This one was opposed by DLNR. If you have a moment and you get into this stuff, you might want to read the testimony of DLNR on this one. But this is one that Senator Gabbard has, and that's partly why I included it. He's been a proponent of this. This was one of the three things he said he was going to be pushing this year. And there's a Senate, obviously a Senate component to this as well. But it proposes a constitutional amendment. And so it's passed with amendments, lots of testimony. It was proposed by the Environmental Legislative Caucus. Any thoughts on this one? Mary?
It's just bad business to make constitutional amendments willy-nilly, and this looks willy-nilly. This is considered willy-nilly. So it's just, the Constitution is the Constitution. I mean, Mahina and Jody, you guys have been to law school. They've drummed that into you over and over, I'm sure. I can appreciate that Mike wants us all to have clean water, but when you start messing around with our Constitution, you need to have a whole bunch more soldiers lined up than they do for this subject. That's...
That said, Mary, is that something you'd like the council to discuss? Do you think this is one we should bring to their attention?
Only for the reason that the senator that chairs the committee under which we reign introduced it. But you might, I mean, I guess if I was chair, I would just report that. I don't think it has the legs to pass, but so really just depending, you know, it's depends on how much time you want to have on the agenda.
Okay, let's see how, I'll put it as one we raise, and then we can go back and if we need to, if there's too many, we can rank them. I think you're right. I mean, my own sense is it's not going to go anywhere, but nonetheless, it is Senator Gabbard's priority, and he has been helpful to us. So out of respect for the legislative process, we should at least talk about it. We could simply submit comments or not submit anything at all. Okay, good, Mary, thank you. The next one is 1810, HB 1810. This one defines what constitutes a quorum. This is one we specifically asked Rep. Lowen to, this was an issue we raised to her, and this was her response to help us. And so 1810, it passed unamended. OPSD and Onauna submitted testimony in support of it. Again, Onauna as an individual. I think my own sense is we need to bring this to the full group because it is something we asked for. So if you're okay with that, I'm going to add that to our list. And then the next one, HB 1874, is also one that we asked about. And it had some interesting testimony. The hearing is today, so I couldn't get any more current information. I'll get that tomorrow. But what I found interesting was, and Jody, I think you'll appreciate this. OIP opposed it, saying it was unnecessary, that we could already do that. So there's some differences of opinions here on a bill that on a subject we requested be addressed. So again, I think this is one that the council should talk about. This was our request to have a retreat. I wrote testimony that OPSD submitted, and Onauna submitted personal testimony. So, Mary, you're shaking your head. What's up? Mary, you mute.
This is my frustration that I tried to express previously. The inconsistency of OIP. I've been doing this crap for almost 40 years. And I just think that we're in our own way. I understand the Sunshine Law, and I get the whole point, and you know, I know who exempted themselves from it to punish who they wanted to punish. I was at all those hearings back in the 80s, 70s and 80s. It's just, so for OIP to write a letter like this is just disappointing. Their testimony, you know.
Yeah.
As soon as we go and schedule a retreat, we're going to have the world come crashing down on us. So that's my thought.
All right, I will add that to the list for us to talk about, since it is the second one that we asked Rep. Lowen to support. The next one is HB 2120, changes how we deal with emergencies. I included that one for us for this chart just because we've had so much conversation during our rules discussion about emergency. I'm not sure, it passed with amendments at PDP. I'm not sure it's something you think we should bring up for the full council or not. Any comments or thoughts?
My understanding is that this bill, along with several others, this one is part of the governor's package, but there's other similar bills regarding emergency management that are the legislature's way of slapping the governor's wrists, and that's what, you know, in all these different hearings regarding emergencies. The Senate wants to take away the governor's powers to declare during an emergency. This is the governor trying to clarify the need for his powers.
Shall we stay away from it? I'm
not sure we want to get involved in it.
Right. I was going to suggest we stay away from this one. We've dealt with emergencies in our rules, and maybe the politics of this would suggest we defer.
I mean, you could leave it on the monitor list, but I don't think we want to be at the table.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I agree. Mahina, you okay with that? Okay. All right. The next one is 2256, HB 2256. Onauna and I missed this in terms of submitting testimony. We recognized we should have, but we just missed it with the other two bills that we were working on. It establishes a Department of Environmental Protection. This is a different version than what had come up in the previous two sessions. This one really, if you notice the last sentence, it talks about providing a working group to submit a report. It doesn't call for the direct creation of a Department of Environmental Protection. It's really, let's study this and come up with some solutions by 2025.
Well, Nicole's making a statement, you know, I mean, if you look at the committee report, they find that Hawaii has no executive level department dedicated to the mission of environmental protection and implementing the environmental policy goals enacted by the legislature. Instead, all of it, it's dispersed amongst departments. And that's been our opinion all along, is that, it's kind of, if you legislature care so much about the environment, where's the money? I mean, it isn't so much that we need them to have an executive department, but where's the money, since you give us no money? And so I guess I would testify as an individual on this bill saying just that, and that, if you're going to have this study group, then you ought to put the people from EAC on the study group, because they're the ones that have been doing all this crap for free for years.
That said, I think we include this as one for us to discuss. Yeah. Okay, good. I agree. And you raise a good point, Mary. And if I forget to say it in the meeting, please remind everybody that should we decide as a council not to submit testimony, that in no way prohibits members of the council from submitting personal testimony. Mm-hmm. And in fact, they should, if they so desire. So we need to make that distinction. So 2256 will go into our discussion purposes. 2021, now the Senate's bills. 2121 is one we talked about earlier, and that's socioeconomic disparities. It's the OHA's companion bill. So we'd already talked about that. Let's go down to 2448, SB 2448. The purpose of this act is to require for a draft EA and draft EIS to include a public hearing in any community that will be directly affected by the underlying proposed action. I know this has generated I found it very confusing when I first read it, because I thought we'd already dealt with that. But this one's much more specific. This one's calling for a hearing. And I had a good conversation with Ron about this, and I think he's submitted testimony. He's felt so strongly about it. It is quite different than our rules about public hearing on the island that's going to be impacted. That, if you remember, Makal and I had some vociferous conversations about that. Mary, you have something to say.
Well, the Senate bill's not been scheduled. So
right.
2454, the companion bill, we don't have on the list.
No, I just had this one from the Senate side. I just listed it as a.
So, well, nothing's happening with the Senate bill. I'm just gonna look really fast to see what.
Yeah, I don't have the ledge work.
I've got it up.
Okay. My screen's not.
There's nothing happening on the. Okay. It has a triple referral in the House, so it's almost dead, really.
Right. So. And 2448, so neither of them are moving. They both have significant referrals. Is this something we want the council to talk about?
Well, I guess I'd like to hear what Ron has to say, but I could pick up the phone and find that out. Not take up the council's time.
I think this is one we should bring up because it clearly talks about something we've spent a lot of time talking about, public participation in EISs and EAs. And I think to just have that discussion would be honoring the work that we've done over the last couple of years. So if you guys are okay, I'd like to add that one to our conversation list.
Well, and I think we should add the House bill, just because you never know which vehicle something might,
Yeah, good point, Mary. So 2448.
And then HB 2454.
2454. And I'll put that on the list as I revise this.
The thing, just to go a little off track here quickly, the whole thing, the whole tenor at the legislature has been really impacted by the guilty pleas of Kalani English and Ty Cullen. I mean, it's not going to stop there. There's going to be more. And that's what everybody's afraid of. And so the whole, the idea that bills are just going to die or be deferred and die and all that, that game's over with. There's going to be a whole new behavior, at least particularly in this session. And anybody that's trying to make appointments with legislators and things are finding a very different reaction from their offices. And so we need to be, so that's why I'm saying we should add the companion just in case.
Are they finding it easier or harder to get appointments?
Much harder, much harder.
Yeah.
I mean, with existing very long-term close relationships, sorry, we aren't taking any, they probably won't have time to call you back until May. That kind of thing.
Okay, good advice. I don't want to even talk about Kalani, my ex-senator, because I don't want it on the record, but I will be glad to talk with anybody off the record about it. Piece of work. Okay, so the next one to talk about then, so I'm going to add 2448 and the House version of it, 2454, to our conversation list. The next one I highlighted was SB 2453, another housing bill. That's not moved at all. It was introduced by Favela and others. So I'm not sure we need to bring that up to the group. Any thoughts about that? Either of you, Mahina or Mary?
No, well, this is one of those builders would love it because it would move people off the dime, but and there's been better written bills in the past that did similar things that got further, but then ran into constitutional issues. And so, I mean, I don't think it has any legs, but
well, it hasn't moved so far.
I don't see any reason for us to discuss it.
Okay, good. I agree. SB 2668 was Roz Baker's attempt to get rid of the Land Use Commission and have one in each county, and that's not going anywhere. I don't think. I think it's safe to say, even from my perspective, we just had a Land Use Commission hearing all morning about an EA from the Pulamo Lanai. I can't imagine having a Land Use Commission and a Lanai Planning Commission both on this island. So anyway, okay. Then the next one is SB 3012. And that one is another one of Senator Gabbard's and many others. There's a lot of companions, a lot of versions of
the
this.
green thing, yeah.
The green fees. And 3012 hasn't moved, but 3192, which is not on your original list, but I added it today, is the one that seems to be moving.
Mm-hmm.
And that establishes within DLNR a visitor green fee to collect a fee to allow visitors to visit a state park, beach, so on and so on, and establishes an environmental legacy commission to allocate the revenues and appropriates money. So, Mary, you're chuckling. Well, what?
Well, just it is, it establishes a legacy commission. I mean, if you read budget and finance testimony, they're like, we don't want any more special funds. We don't. They're just piggy banks to be raided later, and that's what this looks like. We have a surplus this year, so they're establishing savings accounts to raid when we don't have a surplus. It's bad politics, but we probably should talk about it.
Well,
I'll just say that in the meeting.
I think, again, out of a legislative courtesy, this is a priority of actually both Lowen and of Gabbard. Maybe not this specific bill, but the concept. Gabbard's bill didn't move, but maybe he's supporting Dela Cruz's bill. So if it's okay with you, I'll add 3192 to our conversation. Okay, so that gives us 8 bills that we're recommending the council consider. That seems okay to me. That doesn't seem like an unnecessary burden. Let me remind you which ones they are so that we have our notes jive. The ones that we would be talking about are HB 1750, HB 1803, HB 1810, HB 1874, HB 2256, SB 2448, SB 3192, and HB 2454, which is the companion to Senate Bill 2448.
What was the last one? What was the last one, Robin?
SB 3192.
And then prior to that, then?
HB 2454.
I got that.
And then SB 2448.
Yeah, I got that. Okay. I guess I'm just looking for trouble. I'm good.
Count how many you have, Mary.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
That's it. Right. Mahina, you okay? You going to write those numbers down on the receipt for your new car and take them home with you?
I actually have my computer plugged in here. So we're all good.
Jody, you came a little bit late, but Mahina's in the process of buying a car. So she's in a car dealership right now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mahina.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, nobody's in the room with me here, just those hamster things, the Kia hamsters. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any bills that I didn't include that you'd like to raise? Okay, I will draft up this report and recommend that we have a conversation. I'll try and put some context to this about what we can do and what our options are. And I'll have an updated status on some of these bills when we get to the meeting, obviously. But for now, I will recommend that we, at the very least, have a discussion about these 8 bills. Anybody else? Anything else?
You might want to look at on that. Make sure I'm telling you the truth. The testimony for Senate Bill 3192. Read the budget and finance. There's several lengthy things from Suzanne Case on DLNR, but go to the very end and read Craig Hirai, the Director of Budget and Finances. The second page talks about how to establish a special fund. That's the thing that people don't realize is there's a whole metrics of rules that have to be followed to create special funds. And there's lots of special funds being requested under, the environmental stuff, and nobody's going about establishing them correctly. And so it doesn't, I'm not saying whether it's a good or bad idea, but if we're going to do it, we need to do it correctly. Otherwise we get shot. The governor can't sign it. And what's the point in passing bad legislation? But Craig Hirai's testimony is quite tutorial in what needs to happen. And I think it's just all taxpayers should be aware. I just think it's a good idea to know that stuff.
I think, Civil Beat had a couple of articles about all of this today, about emergency legislation and about the impact of Senator Kalani's houses. And I thought, so many of the things that people have been recommending to change make so much sense, and I'd love to see them do some of those changes now when there's there's perfectly good reasons to do it. Mm-hmm. And I hope, Mary, that you're right, that they actually take advantage of some of these challenges and make some significant changes.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the power of a committee chair is just overwhelming to just simply say, I'm not going to hold a hearing on this because it's, and the other thing that I really liked that I saw, and I hadn't seen this before, it drove me crazy during the big wind fight, was senators submitting bills on behalf of others with no statement of who that other is. And I had this conversation with a senator early on in the windmill fight. And he had submitted the legislation that was going to put together the policies for the cable, which was critical to the windmills. And I said, well, who's doing this? And he said, well, HECO asked me to do it. And I said, well, do you know what it's going to do? And he said, no, I just did it because they asked me to. And I was dumbfounded. I'd gone to school for 4 years for a political science degree that was totally useless. Holy shit, you don't even read what you're submitting? You had no idea what it was for?
Well, the argument that they make when you have that experience is they say, well, I want everyone to have their chance at the table. I don't have to agree with it. I'm just trying to, my job is to get the discussion going as an elected official.
Well, then at the very least, you should state who's asked you to do it. Yeah, if you don't want to support it, you can vote against it later on, that's fine. If you want to get a good discussion, fine, but at least indicate where that's coming from. Anyway, that's my grumble for the day. Thank you, everybody, very much. Anything else, Jody?
Do you folks usually do a motion to have this committee make a recommendation or anything like that?
Mary, would you move that we submit eight bills to the full council for their review?
I so move.
And Mahino, you second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Is that sufficient, Jody? All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
The 8 bills. Anybody opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. We don't need a roll call. Anything else, Jody?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Okay.
So, but we're going to provide this entire list as our report, but only ask that we testify on the 8. Is that how we're going to handle this, Robin? Or are you only going to is the report only going to have the 8?
My instinct has been to not share this list beyond our committee because it's just me. I mean, I vetted it today. It's for the first time I had other people walk through it. But prior to that, it was just my version of which bills should be appropriate. So I'm somewhat reticent to submit this whole list as our discussion. I'd rather just submit the 8 bills if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I want to know so I don't bring up something that we didn't plan to talk about.
Mahina, you have any comments on that? Are you okay with me bringing up just the 8 that we've talked about? Okay.
Yeah, because that means we won't talk about the OHA bills, Mahina.
Well, we can, I can always say, anybody else want to bring any other bill up for the discussion, they're more than welcome to.
Well, actually, if there's discussion on some bills, it would be good to have at least the bill numbers on the agenda for the EAC. Because technically you're not supposed to discuss anything that's not on the agenda. Sorry. But you just have the bill number.
Okay, I can do that. That was the OHA bill. Let me find that. Okay, I'll add that.
Robin, I actually think it makes it look like we're paying better attention to say that we reviewed these, 20 bills and find that these 8 are the ones that are appropriate for discussion.
Okay, I'm okay with that. You know what I could do is if you're looking at what I sent you, I could just hide the last 2 columns. My comments with the green dots.
Yeah.
That's just me. And then the status is going to change. That's not going to be.
Yeah. The status by the time we have a meeting isn't going to be what it is right now.
Right. So I guess why don't I just hide the comment column? And then submit the entire document to Les as part of our.
Yep.
And then I can walk people through which bills we're going to. Actually, maybe I can just highlight with, say, bold, the numbers of the bills that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
But include the whole thing.
Right.
How does that work?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that's great. I appreciate your time. Thank you both very much. Jody, thanks for joining us. Les, thanks for setting us up.
Oh, you're welcome.
Aloha, you guys. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.